Welcome to School Matters. I'm Joni Kopis, and today I'm going to be talking to Hamilton City School District Superintendent, Mr. Larry Knapp, about the upcoming Butler County Safety Levy. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I know you've been here before, and what we want you to do is just explain some of the facts and information about this upcoming levy, because it's very unique in this area, unique to the state actually.
Unique to the state. The laws changed in March of this year to allow for this type of configuration. It's issue number 2 that's going to be on the ballot this November. It's a county safety levy for the schools. And within that group of Butler County schools is ourselves, Fairfield, Edgewood, Monroe, New Miami. Together, we will be one large group asking voters to pass a 1.5 mil safety levy.
10-year.
10-year. 10-year. It's limited in its length. It'll cost the voters about $53 per $100,000 valuation they have in their homes. The important part of this is that that money that's generated in Hamilton will stay with Hamilton City Schools. For Hamilton City Schools, it's going to generate just a little less than $1.2 million.
So each school district has their own unique needs if the levy passes, what they want to spend it on.
Correct, exactly. And we have been very clear in delineating how we would spend the money as well. To that end, the levy has to pass as one large group. There's no individualization as to it passing in one community or in another. Those votes will tally as one large group, and it will either pass in that group of 5 or be voted down in that group of 5.
And it affects about, what, 28,000 students between the 5 school districts?
Exactly, of which Hamilton is approximately 10,000.
Right, the biggest. And you talked about the various, the different school districts, because there's, I think, 10 school districts within Butler County.
Right.
And every school district had the opportunity, but for whatever reason, some school districts decided not to come, which is fine. But I think the important part for Hamilton voters is the last operating levy that was passed was 1993, which is 25 years ago.
That's correct. Now, there was another operating money put on the ballot, I think in '96, which did not pass, but then also there was the building bond issue that was on in 2006.
Right.
And of course that passed, and we have beautiful new buildings.
And that's 12 years ago, which
And
is
that's
hard
12
to believe,
years
isn't
ago,
it?
yeah, but it was 25 years ago that we've gone without an additional operating levy.
Right.
And this money is dedicated only towards safety and security items.
Right.
So that's important as we go down the road, even if our funding from the state, that's where we get the majority of our general fund money, is from the state and from local taxes. Even if that money decreases, this money will still be there for the next 10 years, and it has to be spent on safety and security. So that's guaranteed money for the things that we need to do to help keep our kids and staff safe in the buildings.
Yeah, it used to be just 2 pots, the bond issue, which is the buildings, which we had,
Right.
and general fund, operating expenses, utilities, lights, what have you.
Right.
And now this is the 3rd pot of money, if you will, just as you said, specifically for this safety levy.
Exactly, exactly. And how we're looking at spending that money, as I said, it's just a little under $1.2 million that it would produce for us. About 35% of that, over $400,000, would go specifically towards mental health programs that we have identified a need within the district to be able to help kids coming to school every day.
Explain a little bit more about mental health. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot of things that we deal with within our community and within our schools, because that's where our kids are coming from. And some of those kids that are dealing with abuse situations or neglect situations or even dysfunctional situations, that takes a toll on them before they even get to us. As you know, we do everything we can to get past barriers. We get past barriers with student health through our school-based health center down at Garfield Middle School. We do so much with our food service program. 70% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch. And then also there's the dental piece and the vision piece that go in at the health center as well. This mental health component is a very necessary thing, and nationally and locally, safety experts all agree that this mental health component needs to be addressed to help keep kids safe within the buildings. And all of the violence that we see, the vast majority of it, those people doing the violent acts have mental health problems. So very much so, we've been able to do things through an assessment with MindPeace, which is a local nonprofit group. It's a regional group actually, because they're out of Cincinnati, that has been helping us identify mental health needs within our buildings. And so we've been going through that assessment process, and we've been able to line up services for kids right in our buildings, all at no cost to the district. We provide the space for the mental health workers to come in and work in our buildings to work with kids. And generally those are with folks that are completely uninsured, and they're getting their services paid through by federal monies with Medicare and Medicaid and those types of things. There's another piece to this as well, and those are students that are dealing with those trauma situations that I referred to earlier, the abuse and the neglect and the dysfunction. So if we can get those kids help also, and to train our staff to work towards rectifying and helping with those trauma type situations, not as counselors, but as positive resources for these kids dealing with these situations. And the only way we can do that is with training for our staff and then providing other sources of counseling for them as well. That's where that first 35% would go.
And you mentioned MindPeace coming to each school to do the assessment, because before we'd have schools that had maybe 10 or 15 different social agencies coming in, which is all well and good, but you have a lot of people in and out, and really with MindPeace, they look at the building, say these are really the specific needs, and then they work directly with that, so you have a little bit more continuity, and they're there every day. Like you said, they've got their office space, and they're there on a more regular basis than maybe what we had in the past.
There's one mental health provider attached to each building now, so that we have those folks on site every day working with those kids who need the services, and not that patchwork group, so to say, coming in and doing all of those things. It's a much more continuous and profitable, or not profitable, but it's profitable for the kids. It's good for the kids. It's so much more of a consistent program for them to be in.
And we have about, what, 5 or 6 of our buildings so far, and then by the end of this school year, all of our buildings should be
We're finishing
fully
up our
assessed.
6th building right now, and by the end of this 2019 to 18-19 school year, everybody should be on board.
Okay. So that's the mental health, as you said, a lot of challenges some of our students come into school with.
Right.
Another big point is right now we have 5 school resource officers, which
That's
are
correct.
Hamilton City School District uniform officers in our buildings.
Hamilton Police Department.
Hamilton Police
Yes.
Department, I'm sorry. And our hope is to get 2 more by the end of this calendar year.
Correct.
But part of this safety levy would be to add school resource officers in every building all the time, every day.
Correct. We have 5 right now. We're going to add 2 more, and this is whether the levy passes or not. We're adding that 6th and 7th SRO. The 47% of this levy money, almost $565,000, would be spent on 7 additional school resource officers. And that would be in the other 6 elementary buildings, and then also 1 more at the high school. The high school building itself is so large, expansive, it's a beautiful facility, but it's a big facility. And we really need, in looking at things, to have 2 SROs available there every day that we're open. So that's the 7 additional
Well,
officers.
looking at the current 5 that we have, I mean, you go in in the buildings, and it's amazing the rapport and relationship they're building with the students too, and I think that's key in the SROs.
It's a critical piece, and you witness going into the buildings, the relationships that these officers are building with these kids. And it's a main component of the safety piece as well, to build and maintain those relationships, because it's that information sharing that keeps kids safe. And so many of the violent situations that we see around the country, in public places and in schools, people know that this person, the shooter, is having problems. They know that there's mental health pieces there. And in so many of the school shootings, kids in the building knew somebody had a gun. Well, we need to have those relationships with kids that they're comfortable in coming forward and saying, hey, listen, so-and-so is having problems. You know, we need to talk to them today, and to get to those kids before things happen.
I think a perfect example of the relationship, and TV Hamilton was there when Ernie Huff came back to the high school after being ill a little while. And the students that just came out and staff, you know, were so happy to be able to greet him. And to me, that's a perfect example of the relationship that these police officers create.
That was a great testimony to Ernie. He's a wonderful guy. And but there's very similar relationships with all of our SROs and the people and the kids they serve.
And some of them are even coaching.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. Down at Wilson, Rodney Wilson at Garfield.
At Garfield, correct.
Is coaching down there, is coaching football after school. And those relationships just go on and on and on. It was funny, with Rodney, he was over at Fairwood for the first day of kindergarten. You know, they come in a little bit late. And I saw this little guy come running all the way across the gym and dove into his arms.
Tackled him.
Yeah, and because he'd met him at another function and remembered him, and that kid just, you know, was immediately attracted to him, and those types of things. It just goes so far in making schools a safer place.
Because typically when you see a fireman, you're happy to see them because they're putting out a fire. Police sometimes has a negative connotation, which isn't always fair, but this is more of a positive light, and they really get to know, obviously the police get to know the students get to know the police, and it's a great working relationship, if you will.
And the kids know that those SROs are there to keep them safe.
Correct. That's good. All right, so we said 47% would go to having school resource officers in every building.
Right.
About 35% of the 1.2 million would be from mental health. And then the other 18% is what we call camera, facilities, equipments, other like improvements with the facilities. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Everything from window film to physical bollards that go around the buildings to protect walkways and those types of things. Electronic detection devices that we can add. Upgrading our camera systems. One important thing about our camera systems, when those were put in, they were to monitor student use movement and stuff in the buildings, those types of things. With us now using them more as a safety component, there's a need for more cameras. There's also, with the advent of the high-def cameras that are out now that are really much more reasonably priced than what our original cameras were. To that end, we also need to add more storage, because with that high-def camera, there's a lot more data there that needs to be stored. And we need to have more storage so that we can keep those images for a longer length of time as well.
Not only inside, but outside the buildings too. We have cameras in and out.
In and out, and then on every doorway and those exterior doors and those types of things as well. So there needs to be some expansion there with those units, and all of those things cost money. So. And
you mentioned the window film. I know we put some window film on several schools already, but that would be another point, is to add and continually, you know, make more of the window films available.
It's important to point out that the window film, you can't put it on every window in the building. That is financially overwhelming.
Right.
But where we're putting that window film is where it's going to protect kids in large areas where they would congregate and those types of things.
Well, I know you've been going out to several different social organizations. Just explain, you know, get the facts, because it can be a little confusing with the 5 school districts becoming one, if you will. But I know you've got some other town hall meetings scheduled as well. Most recently spoke at Rotary the other day. They were nice enough to invite me in and come to speak with them, and shared all of this basic levy information with them. Also had our first town hall meeting here just this week. That was out at the Baptist Church out on
Pyramid Hill, and that was well received. And then we have 3 more scheduled yet also. The first one is on October 10th, and that's at Berkeley Square at 7 o'clock. The next one is at the Booker T. Washington Community Center, and that is on the 16th, again at 7 o'clock. And then the third one, the fourth, actually that's going to be our fourth, is scheduled at the Lindenwold United Methodist Church. And again, that is on October 23rd at 7 o'clock. So.
And I know, this has been a discussion throughout the summer with school board meetings. We had another town hall meeting as well. And I really commend the board and you, the administration, to listen because, obviously it's a very emotional topic. Some, say yes, some no, arming staff, what have you. But as Mr. Kruger said, everybody was very civil, expressed their opinions, and I think they appreciated the board really listening to them. Because I know some school districts, feel like some people feel like some school districts aren't listening, but I think we have to commend our school board members and you as the administration to say you're really listening to what the people are saying, and then figure out, what's best for our school district and our students.
There are those that want to make this a controversial subject. It's not. All of this is about safety and about helping kids and keeping kids and staff safe in the schools. It's that simple. There are folks that want to characterize this as a money grab. It's not. When you go 25 years without an increase in local funding, I think that says volumes about the responsibility, the financial responsibilities that this district has taken on and been able to control costs through that length of time. I would challenge anybody to go 2.5 decades without financial increases to their income. But that being the case, this money is needed. It's not, I know that $53 a year can be a financial burden on some folks. I understand that. And that's why this is a voting situation. People can make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to support this to go towards the safety in schools.
Well, I like what you say too. Are our schools safe? Yes. Can they be safer? Of course. Will they be 100% safe? Nothing is 100% safe.
There's no guarantees.
But schools, looking at everything, schools seem to be safer than churches, restaurants, all that, because we put in so much. I think we spent about close to $800,000 a year.
Over the last 5 years, we've been averaging, I think it's around $815,000 a year and that's on our existing SROs and on all of the other things that we do, are maintaining the camera systems that we have and even the cameras. We have cameras on buses and all of those things.
Even the radios that the administrators have.
Every
those
administrator
have to be updated every so often as well.
Exactly, and we continue to expand their use because it's instant communications, and that's what's needed to really keep things safe. But my point is that even if the levy, whether the levy passes or fails, the district will continue to spend that money on those kids, that $815,000. This 1.19 additional money would be to enhance things and make them better and to get more SROs and to get us up to a higher level. So we have a very good, secure system in place. I had a parent call me the other day and asked me about it, and I said I would not hesitate for my own children or grandchildren to be in any of Hamilton City schools. That's at what level of comfort I'm at. Can we make them better? Yes.
Sure.
And here's an opportunity to do that.
Well, you mentioned you received a phone call. I think it's important too. If people have questions or concerns, you're more than willing to have them either call you, email you. You'd be more than happy to have that conversation.
Anytime. And call me at the board office, send me an email, and I'll be glad to talk on the phone or sit down face to face or share emails back and forth. However we can get the right information out about what we're doing with this money, I'll be glad to share it.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate you coming on to sort of explain it. Like we said, it's unusual for 5 school districts to come as to one. So we appreciate you explaining that. And also some of the facts that regarding for specifically for Hamilton City Schools. So thank you.
Glad to have the opportunity. Glad to be here. Thank
Great.
you.
We appreciate you listening to us as well on School Matters, because school matters. We'll see you next time.